The story opens with a girl called Agnes, the unfashionable lady. Her memory flashes back to the worst day of her life. Her father rages, unable to believe she couldn't win a suitor's heart. He demands to know how much more she will tarnish their family name. With tears in her eyes, Agnes whispers an apology. She thinks to herself that no one wants to marry an unfashionable lady like her. Her family's obsession with old traditions has made her a social pariah. Her brother declares he is ashamed to have her as a sister. Her mother screams that she is a failure of a daughter. Her family forces her to attend another party at the royal palace. She must get engaged this time, they tell her. Agnes collapses on the sofa, begging them not to make her go. She's terrified of being rejected and hurt all over again. She clutches a pillow, her face hidden in despair. Then, a sudden, brilliant idea strikes her. A convent for noblewomen who couldn't marry. She could become a nun. A respectable life, free from all this. Filled with this new hope, she arrives at the palace, but trouble finds her almost immediately. A man accidentally spills red wine all over her dress. He sneers, asking if her dingy gown doesn't look better now. Overwhelmed, Agnes tries to flee the scene. Her dress snags, and she stumbles, collapsing to the floor. As she lies there, in utter despair, a kind voice cuts through the noise. A man asks her if she is all right. Kneeling before her is a handsome man with dark hair, offering a hand. Agnes is stunned, thinking what a beautiful person he is. The crowd begins to murmur. It's Nazelbert, the princess's fiancé. Why is the star of the show talking to that unfashionable lady? Suddenly, Princess Mia makes her grand entrance, arm in arm with another man. She publicly breaks her engagement with Nazelbert. The crowd erupts in absolute shock. The princess then accuses Nazelbert of bullying her new lover, Robin. She declares that she's already pregnant with Robin's child. Nazelbert stands there, shell-shocked, denying the wild accusations. Mia screams that she has always hated how serious and proper he is. She orders her guards to get rid of him. Nazelbert is thrown violently to the floor, abandoned by everyone. Agnes watches, horrified, as he sits there completely alone. She reaches out a hand, asking if he's okay. Princess Mia spots them and breaks into a wicked, triumphant laugh. His punishment, she declares, is banishment and marriage to Agnes. The sound of a slap echoes through the grand hall. A father's voice roars, calling his daughter an utter disgrace. Agnes crumples to the floor, her world tilting on its axis. Her father screams, his face a mask of fury. He told her to pursue a viscount's son. Instead, she's been forced to marry a criminal. Tears stream down Agnes's face as she covers her mouth. She tries to plead, to explain, but he won't listen. She doesn't even know how this happened. She only tried to help Nazelbert, Princess Mia's kind fiancé. But he was falsely accused, and she was dragged down with him. The punishment was announced with cruel glee. Banishment to the frontier for him. And for her? Marriage to that so-called unfashionable lady. Agnes was completely dumbfounded by the sudden turn of events. Her father declares that since she's been ordered to marry a criminal, no other family will ever take her as a wife. He points a finger, his voice like thunder. Agnes, you are disowned. He tells her to be gone from his house immediately. The great iron gate slams shut behind her. Thrown out into the cold, dark night, she shivers. She has no friends, no money, no place to go. The royal capital is deserted and silent. She remembers Nazelbert's pitiful expression at the palace. Overwhelmed by the heavy dress and exhaustion, she finally slumps to the ground. She just can't go on anymore. As she sits on a stone wall, wondering what to do, a voice suddenly calls out her name. Miss Agnes! She turns, her eyes wide with surprise. It's him, Nazelbert Sama. He rushes toward her, his expression full of concern. Thank goodness, he breathes. I was searching for you. He says he needed to apologize for dragging her into this mess. Then he heard she was disowned and kicked out. He leans in, overcome with relief. Ah, I am so relieved I found you. Agnes can only stare, completely overwhelmed. He looks down, apologizing for his own incompetence. But Agnes shakes her head. No, no, no. She explains the truth. Princess Mia was pregnant with another man's child. Nazelbert admits he was too afraid of the princess to speak up, but he believed everyone else was thinking the same thing. He asks softly, "Don't you resent me?" After all, she was kicked out of her home because of him. Agnes insists she holds no grudges against him for that. He then brings up the other rumor about the unfashionable lady. Confused, Agnes looks up at him and asks, "Potato?" Her eyes widen as she puts the pieces together. In a small voice, she explains that's why they call her the unfashionable lady. Nazelbert lets out a long, pained sigh. She closes her eyes, expecting disgust. That's the reaction I expected. It's cruel to judge someone on appearances alone. But instead of turning away, he simply says, "Let's go, Miss Agnes." He's taking her to his estate. She protests, saying she couldn't impose on a duke's home. But he insists it's unacceptable for a lady to be alone at this hour. He gently takes her hand. "It was my fault, so don't worry." As they walk, Agnes suddenly stumbles with a cry of pain. Nazelbert catches her, asking if she's all right. Before she can answer, he sweeps her up into his arms. "A Princess Carrie!" She lets out a startled gasp, completely flustered. He whispers that they're close to the carriage, asking her to bear with it. He then looks down. "It seems you've injured your foot after all." He asks to see, and his expression turns grim. "This is an awful blister." Agnes explains the shoes belonged to her grandmother and were too small. He carries her into the grand estate, ignoring her protests about being barefoot. "It's fine," he says quietly. "I'm leaving this home soon anyway." He sets her down on a lavish sofa in an elegant room. He looks at her, his voice soft but firm. "You should take better care of yourself." Overwhelmed, Agnes thanks him for everything. She tells him that no matter what, she knows he is a wonderful person. His Majesty the King will surely do something about this. She can't find the right words, but she has to make him see. She throws her arms around him. "Please cheer up." Her hands clasp his. "You're a wonderful person." Nazelbert closes his eyes, a gentle smile gracing his lips. He feels a great weight has been lifted from his shoulders. "Thank you, Miss Agnes." He introduces her to a maid named Kelly, who will care for her. Agnes is shown to a breathtakingly beautiful guest room. It's a liberating, refreshing feeling after her suffocating family home. Kelly prepares a bath and gently helps remove her heavy makeup. Later, lying in bed, Agnes tosses and turns, worried about her future. The next morning, sunlight streams through the window. Kelly greets her with a new set of clothes and makeup. The items are light as a feather, bright and unbearably cute. Kelly begins the makeover, applying soft powder and pinkish lipstick. She styles Agnes's hair, puts in the final touches, and announces, "All done." Agnes stares at her reflection, utterly speechless at the girl looking back. Agnes stares into the mirror, her mind reeling. She whispers, asking if the girl in the reflection is really her. The maid, Kelly, smiles, assuring her it is. Agnes marvels at her softly waving hair and light makeup. She looks down at the lovely dress and comfortable shoes. She laughs, thrilled with the modern style she's always idolized. Grabbing Kelly's arm, she insists they hurry and show Nazelbert. They find him on the balcony, looking out, tense and nervous. He turns at their greeting, his teacup rattling in surprise. A slow, warm smile spreads across his face. He tells her she looks wonderful, that the new style suits her. Agnes blushes, happy that his mood seems brighter too. But then Nazelbert's expression turns serious. He vows to do everything to protect her from the palace fallout. Agnes protests, asking for the clothes so she can leave on her own. "No," he says, his voice firm. "I won't allow it." He tells her he's already working to get her disownment lifted. Later, Nazelbert sits at his desk, head buried in his hands. Kelly enters the room with a grave report about Agnes. She reveals she found faint whip marks on her arms. There were also bruises on her face, hidden beneath thick makeup. Her feet were discolored, and her toes deformed from tight shoes. Nazelbert listens, his face draining of color. He realizes her family is steeped in a darkness he never imagined. Meanwhile, Agnes finds a moment of peace in the library. Her eyes sparkle, amazed by books she's never seen before. She discovers Nazelbert's personal research notes on magic. She pores over his genius work, reading until she falls asleep at the desk. Sometime later, a furious voice shatters the quiet of the estate. It's Nazelbert's younger brother, Julian, ranting about his brother's fate. He screams that it's disgraceful for him to marry the potato lady. Agnes overhears, her face falling as she accepts the insult as truth. At that exact moment, Julian rounds the corner and freezes. Flustered, Agnes shyly offers him a cup of tea. He stammers, asking his attendant who this lady is. His attendant states plainly, she is the one he'd just kick out. Julian points a trembling finger, his eyes wide with horror. "Potato lady!" Later, the mood is somber. Nazelbert confirms his exile is set. Agnes feels trapped. She can't go home, she can't go to a convent. Nazelbert takes her hand, stopping her, his gaze intense. He tells her it is now his duty to protect her. He asks her to come with him to the frontier and marry him. A few days pass, their carriage bound for the frontier. Agnes recalls her decision to accept his proposal. She still sees herself as an unfashionable lady. She resolves to become independent for his sake. In the carriage, she asks about the Sutrena territory. He explains it's a land ravaged by magical beasts. The crop yield is also strangely sparse. He plans to use his plant manipulation magic to help. Agnes is overwhelmed, stunned by his noble spirit. When he asks, she humbly admits her own magic. It's just material enhancement for reinforcing clothes. Nazelbert tells her it's a rare magic with great potential. His kind words leave her feeling warm and seen. Meanwhile, in Sutrena, an aide named Connie is furious. He complains about the capital sending them a potato lady. He remembers the report vividly, calling her a new kind of beast. His superior orders him to go pick them up in Roca. 10 days later, Nazelbert and Agnes finally arrive. Agnes is thrilled, hoping she might ride a Pegasus. Connie finds them and sizes up Nazelbert. He looks around, asking curtly, "Where is your wife?" Agnes timidly raises a hand. "Ah, is it me?" Nazelbert wraps a proud arm around her shoulder. He announces, "This is my wife, Agnes." Connie freezes, his face drains of all color. His own insults echo in his mind. A new kind of beast. He screams internally, his eyes wide with horror. His face burns with shame as he realizes, it was me. Flustered, he decides to teach them a lesson. He reveals their ride is not a gentle Pegasus. 2 massive, roaring wyverns descend from the sky. Connie smirks, waiting for the spoiled Richies to panic. But Nazelbert and Agnes are completely thrilled. "Awesome!" Nazelbert calmly states he's trained to ride wyverns. Agnes approaches the giant beast, calling it cute and beautiful. Connie can only stare, utterly speechless. As Nazelbert helps her onto the wyvern's back, she remembers him reaching out to her before. She is no longer that unfashionable lady. Holding on to him, she feels she can face anything. Now she's determined to find what she can do for him. Their journey begins, soaring toward an unknown future. But elsewhere, in the gilded halls of the Royal Academy, a young man stares down at an old, dusty book. His eyes are completely glazed over. He lets out a long, drawn-out sigh of utter despair. He mutters to himself that he is so bored. With a groan, he pushes himself away from the desk. He flops backwards, sprawling across a mountain of textbooks. His legs dangle lazily off the side. This place is supposed to be for the elite, but to him it's a prison. A slow, mischievous smirk spreads across his face. He looks out into the empty room, a glint in his eye. He thinks to himself that this is all a waste of time. Suddenly, he winks at an imaginary audience. He declares that studying has never been his strong point. He asks the silent room if it wants to see his super pickup technique. He strikes a confident pose, ready to perform, but a voice cuts through the quiet library air. "You're talking to yourself a lot, huh?" The young man freezes instantly. His charming smirk vanishes. A look of pure, horrified shock replaces it. He was supposed to be alone. He slowly, cautiously turns his head. Leaning in the doorway is another student. He's watching him with an amused expression. The newcomer is almost blindingly handsome. His posture is perfect, his uniform immaculate. A cascade of shimmering roses seems to bloom around him. This is Robin Levbischen, the illegitimate son of the Baron, but he carries himself with the grace of a prince. Robin pushes off the doorframe and takes a step inside. His charming smile is unwavering. He looks from the boy on the desk to the messy pile of books. He asks if he's interrupting. The boy can only stammer, his face flushing red. He feels utterly foolish, caught in the act. Robin's smile only widens. It seems a new, dangerous player has just entered the game. A white-haired girl and a red-haired man soar through the sky on a dragon. Agnes cries out with exhilaration as they fly at an incredible speed. As they look down, they see the city is surrounded by barren fields. Nazel's expression turns grim. He murmurs that it's even worse than the rumors suggested. They land on the stone battlements of a massive castle. As Agnes tries to dismount the wyvern, she stumbles and slips. She lets out a sharp cry of fear as she plummets downwards. Mazel shouts her name, lunging forward without a second thought. He catches her just before she can hit the unforgiving stone. He holds her tightly in his arms, her body pressed against his. Her face burns red, completely flustered by their sudden closeness. He asks if she's all right, his voice tight with concern. A man with glasses looks on from the side, absolutely aghast. He screams a name, furious that they let honored guests ride a wyvern. Soon he's chasing a small, red-haired boy through the castle halls. Later, inside, the man introduces himself as the head administrator, Henry. Nazel looks out at the suffering land, his resolve hardening. He declares he will do everything in his power to become its lord. That night, they arrive at a massive, lavish mansion. Agnes stares in wonder. This is to be their new home. As they step inside, a familiar voice greets them warmly. It's Kelly, her loyal maid, standing there with a calm smile. Agnes rushes to her, tears of joy welling in her eyes. She thanks Kelly for following them all the way out to this remote place. Kelly simply states she will follow them wherever they go. The three of them stand together, a small, determined family. Later, Kelly leads them to the master bedroom for the night. Agnes steps inside and freezes, her mind going completely blank. There's only one bed, a very large, very ornate bed. Her heart pounds in her chest as a quiet panic sets in. Noticing her distress, Nazel calmly offers to sleep on the sofa. But as he turns to leave, Agnes grabs his arm to stop him. She insists that he is the one who needs a proper rest. He stares, completely stunned by her powerful stubbornness. Defeated, he lets out a sigh and agrees, a small smile on his face. Nazel then suggests a simple compromise. They share it. They sit on opposite ends of the bed, stiff as boards and beet red. Lying under the covers, Agnes's mind races, unable to sleep. Suddenly, Nazel whispers her name in the darkness. A hand lands gently on her shoulder, and she jolts upright. He looms over her, his face inches from hers, a question in his eyes. His face is inches from hers in the dark. He quietly tells her she must be exhausted after today. He says she should rest up. The romantic tension vanishes in an instant. The next morning, Agnes wakes up feeling refreshed. She thinks back on the night and calls herself a fool. Of course, Nazel wouldn't be interested in his temporary wife. She learns he has already left for official business. Agnes resolves to do her part as lady of the estate. Her first task, exploring the enormous, dusty mansion. Seeing the filth everywhere, she becomes determined to help. She asks her maid, Kelly, to teach her how to clean. Agnes insists she can't just sit there doing nothing. Kelly is moved by her admirable spirit. They spend the day happily cleaning the mansion together. As evening approaches, Kelly tells her it's time to stop. They need to prepare to welcome Nazel home. Agnes decides to go into town for dinner supplies. Kelly hands her a hooded cloak to hide her identity. In the streets, the townspeople glare at them with cold eyes. Agnes panics, thinking her potato aura is showing. Kelly calmly explains that isn't it. The stares are because she is the Lord's new wife. Agnes is shocked to learn the people hate their rulers. Later that evening, Nazel returns home, looking weary. Agnes greets him, but her smile quickly fades to concern. She tells him what she experienced in town. A shadow of deep sorrow crosses Nazel's face. He apologizes for dragging her into the situation. To lighten the mood, she finds a bottle of wine. To her shock, he chugs the entire glass in one gulp. His cheeks are instantly flushed, his eyes glazed over. Kelly enters the room and cries out in horror. She reveals that Nazel is extremely weak to alcohol. The liquor loosens his tongue, and he begins to speak. He confesses that the townspeople don't want him there. All they want is for him to stay quiet and leave them alone. Agnes listens, her heart aching at his quiet despair. As he sinks into sorrow, an idea strikes her. Her eyes fly open with a sudden brilliant realization. She reminds him of the empty planting field in the backyard. They can plant the seedlings he brought right away. A cheerful Agnes works late into the night. She tells herself she can finish planting tonight. She remembers Nazel saying, "The sooner, the better." A weary Nazel suggests they stop until morning. But Agnes, full of energy, recalls a book on farming. She hefts a heavy bag of fertilizer with surprising strength. A very drunk Nazel watches, his eyes wide in disbelief. He thinks to himself that Agnes is incredibly strong. They finish, gently watering the newly planted seedling. Both look down, sharing a quiet hope for its growth. The next morning, Nazel waves goodbye, remembering nothing. Agnes feels a little awkward about his memory loss. But then a thought strikes her. The seedling! She dashes out of the mansion, eager to check on it. She calls out cheerfully, expecting nothing has changed, and then she stops. Her eye goes wide with shock. She falls to her knees, staring at the dry, cracked ground. The tiny plant is completely withered. She remembers this land is cursed, unable to grow crops. She can't tell Nazel. The news would only crush him more. This is bad. She has to do something herself. Clenching her fists, she focuses on the dying plant. She stretches her hands out, pouring magic into the soil. She isn't even sure if her power works on plants. She prays desperately, pouring her feelings into the earth. Please, for Nazel's sake. She begs it to grow. Later, a maid named Kelly finds Agnes lost in thought. Agnes feels a deep need to be useful to Nazel. He saved her when she had nowhere else to go. Meanwhile, Kelly is in town, learning a harsh truth. The market has no grains or vegetables, only foraged goods. The townspeople reveal the cruelty of the previous lord. He was a monster who was killed by his own pet beast. They tell her the whole town celebrated when he died. The weight of this history crushes the maids, spirits. Back at the mansion, Nazel is shouting Agnes's name. He runs up to her, his face a mask of sheer panic. He stammers that it's bad, something happened to the seedling. Agnes's blood runs cold. He found the withered plant. He grabs her hand, pulling her urgently toward the garden. They burst through the archway, and she looks up. Before them stands a massive, glowing tree, impossibly huge. Agnes stares in utter shock, her mouth hanging open. She asks how the simple seedling she tended could have possibly become Knatch this. Before them stands a massive, gnarled tree, pulsing with magic. It appeared overnight, bearing huge, glowing fruits. Nazel holds his chin, completely perplexed. These viola berries are far larger than his improved strain. He can't figure out what on earth is happening. Suddenly, Agnes clutches at the fabric of her dress. A strange power seems to surge from within her. Her eyes widen in dawning horror. She whispers that this might be her fault. Nazel turns, asking if she knows something about this. She stammers his name, completely flustered by his closeness. He leans in, quietly saying he's never used his power like this. Agnes admits that she's just as surprised as he is. He wonders aloud if it's the effect of her magic. He looks at her with a new, intense curiosity. An idea begins to form in his mind. He asks if she would lend him her power once more. He wants to experiment on the other seedlings. Her eyes go wide, with hopeful excitement. She tells him, of course she will help. Over the next half-day, they work together tirelessly. Nazel observes as the plants grow at an impossible rate. Agnes wonders if she just used too much fertilizer. But Nazel finally understands the truth. It wasn't fertilizer. It was Agnes's material enchantment magic. He turns to her, his face lit with a brilliant idea. He tells her that she is absolutely amazing. Agnes flushes, startled by the sudden praise. He explains that her magic could save Sutrena from crop failure. He declares he'll report this to the fort first thing tomorrow. The next day, Nasal stands before the fort's officials. He gets straight to the point, presenting the magical viola berries. He explains they were harvested from this very land yesterday. The room erupts in murmurs of disbelief. Nasal passionately explains his wife's magic can solve the food crisis. But one of the officials steps forward, his expression cold. He says they can't trust the words of a criminal. Nasal freezes, completely stunned by the accusation. The men whisper among themselves about poison and dark intentions. Another official demands to know what he's really plotting. He accuses Nasal of planning to sell the crops at a high price. Nasal's hands clench into tight fists. He vehemently denies the accusation. He insists they only want to help the people of Sutrena. The men stare down at him, their faces like stone. They tell him to just stay out of it, then turn their backs. They leave him standing alone in the silent, empty room. Later, he stands alone, staring out at the barren land. He presented so many plans to save this territory, but this time, they wouldn't even listen. He thinks of the malnutrition and sickness to come. He has to do something, anything. Suddenly, a crash echoes from behind him. It's Henry, one of the officials, collapsed on the ground. He gasps for air, saying he ran all the way here. Nasal kneels down, helping the man steady himself. Henry tries to speak, but Nasal sternly cuts him off. With a sigh, he scoops the exhausted official up into his arms. Henry shrieks, mortified, and begs to be put down. Agnes opens the door to welcome Nasal home. She freezes, utterly shocked to see him carrying an unconscious Henry. Sometime later, Henry awakens in a strange bed. He remembers the cold rejection in the meeting room. He remembers Nasal's look of utter despair. He'd overheard Agnes comforting him through the door. She spoke of the people's deep distrust of any lord, but she swore that Nasal's sincerity would one day reach them, and she insisted that they could not give up. Just as Nasal thanks Agnes for her faith, the door creaks open. It's Henry, standing weakly in the doorway. He looks at Nasal and asks to be allowed to help. Henry explains he overheard their entire conversation. He admits the other officials are difficult, but he has earned some of their trust over the years. He believes he can act as the bridge between them. After seeing Nasal's passion, he is finally convinced. He believes Nasal and Agnes will lead Sutrena to a better future. Nasal clasps Henry's hands, admitting he can't do this alone. The three of them begin to strategize immediately. Nasal lays out his plan to prove the crops. Safety. In the hall, Kelly finds Agnes with her face in her hands. Agnes whispers that she is so happy, so incredibly glad. She says she's so overjoyed she could cry. Later, Nasal finds Agnes, and his expression softens. He pulls her into a sudden, heartfelt embrace. He tells her that if she hadn't been here, he'd be suffering alone. With tears in her eyes, Agnes thanks him for bringing her here. A few days have passed since Henry offered his help. The soldiers gathered to hear Nasal's plans for Sutrena. At first, they were confused and uncertain about the future, but soon they were ready to begin the work. In a dusty corner of the land, a woman kneels in distress. Just then, Agnes arrives with a bright, confident smile. She announces she can help with her material enchantment magic. She extends her hands over a tiny, wilting sprout. Glowing particles of light swirl around her and the plant. In an instant, the sprout explodes into a fruit-bearing tree. The barren field is suddenly filled with lush growth. The soldiers can only stare in absolute wonder. One of them kneels down, carefully picking a strange fruit. His companions watch him, their expressions a mix of awe and doubt. He hesitantly brings the fruit to his lips. A look of pure satisfaction spreads across his face. He declares that it's delicious, just as he'd hoped. He calls out to Henry, telling him to try one too. Henry picks up a piece with a pair of tongs. He takes a bite, his face lighting up with delight. His eyes go wide as he exclaims how tasty it is. He confirms to the others that it's true. He confidently offers the bowl to a skeptical soldier. "If you doubt me," he challenges, "then go ahead and try it." The soldier who first tasted it smirks, hiding a laugh. Later that day, he sits alone in a grand office. He's surrounded by stacks of official paperwork. A sharp knock echoes from the door. He looks up from his work, startled from his concentration. The visitor is Nazelbert, the new lord. Nazel stands before him and bows his head deeply. He apologizes for his rude words the other day. The soldier tells him that it is fine. Nazel says he understands they've all been through a lot of pain. The soldier looks down, his expression somber. Nazel meets his gaze with serious, determined eyes. He asks for their help for the sake of Sutraina. The soldier places a hand over his heart, his face resolute. He thanks Nazel sincerely for his efforts. In the following days, the town begins to change. Two hooded figures wander through the bustling marketplace. One of them inspects the produce at a stall. The carrots and berries are unusually fresh and vibrant. The shopkeeper greets them with a warm smile. She explains it's all thanks to the new lord's wife. Her magic has brought crops they had long given up on. The hooded figure notes how hard the new lord is working. They murmur to themselves, "I see." They had assumed he would be the same as the old one. But maybe, they think, it's time to trust him a little. This person's name is Belle, a traveling trader. Back at the manor, a maid bursts through the door. She announces a trader named Belle is here to see Agnes. Agnes looks up from her desk, surprised. A cheerful figure appears, surrounded by a dazzling light. "Nice to meet you," Belle says with a brilliant smile. The light is so bright, Agnes has to shield her eyes. As they begin their business, two maids whisper nearby. They think this trader seems incredibly fishy. Belle laughs brightly, having somehow overheard their thoughts. They insist there is nothing fishy about them at all. Belle inspects the goods Agnes has for sale. The value is surprisingly good, and Agnes is pleased. With their business concluded, Belle changes the subject. They mention hearing rumors about her magic in the market. Agnes is stunned, her eyes going wide with surprise. Belle quickly adds that the rumors were all good, of course. Agnes blushes, humbly saying she didn't do much. She insists the credit belongs to Nazel and the officials. Belle is taken aback by her genuine modesty. With a soft smile, Belle says they understand. They part ways, hoping to meet again someday. Time passes, and little by little, life in Sutraina settles. Nazel and his people are slowly being accepted. New maids are hired to help at the growing manor. Agnes feels a sense of peace, doing the best she can. Then, one ordinary day, that peace is shattered. A maid runs into the room, her expression urgent. She calls out for Nazelbert-sama. Agnes and Nazel look up, startled from their reading. A letter has arrived from the capital. Nazel's face grows serious as he sees the royal seal. Agnes looks on, her heart pounding with anxiety. She nervously asks him what is written inside. Nazel tells her it concerns her as well. It's an invitation to a garden party from Prince Leonardo. The letter states they must attend as a couple. Nazel continues reading, his expression grim. The Eventail family may also be in attendance. Agnes freezes, her voice a terrified whisper. "What did you say?" Kelly stood in quiet contemplation, a new thought taking root. She watched the other maid, whose heart was full of familial love. The feelings she could read were so simple, so warm. It was a world entirely different from the one she knew. She thought to herself that she was beginning to understand. Then, the scene shifts to a place far from the Sutraina estate. A man with blonde hair and glasses stares forward intently. His high-collared uniform marks him as a frontier executive officer. An aura of stern duty hangs heavily around him. But a caption gives us a clue to his story. When he gets home, his tiredness will just fly away. Another warning appears, chilling and specific. This all happened shortly before Lord Nazelbert's arrival. The man, Harry, is seen from behind. He walks towards a house under a dark sky. The door clicks open, and he steps into the dim light. Before he can take another step, a blur of motion explodes. Excited paws scrabble across the floorboards. A large, white, dog-like creature barrels towards him. It leaps, barking with pure, unrestrained joy. The creature slams into him, knocking him off his feet. He lands on his back with a startled grunt. The dog, named Harry, begins licking his face frantically. Affectionate licks cover his cheeks and neck. He lets out a flustered sound, trying to speak. He tells Harry to stop it, pushing gently at the creature. But the happy dog only wags its tail harder. At that moment, two small voices cry out. "Father!" a young boy shouts, his face bright with a smile. "Papa, welcome home," calls another, winking playfully. His two sons, Riley and Shelley, rush to his side. The man's stern expression completely melts away. He pushes himself up, his arms open wide. He pulls both of his boys into a tight hug. A gentle smile finally touches his lips. He asks them if they've been good children. One of the boys proudly declares his progress. He says he did nation studies with his mother. The other quickly chimes in, "Me too." Harry tells them that their efforts are amazing. His chest swells with an overwhelming pride. A soft, feminine voice drifts over from the side. "Oh my," a woman says with a warm look. It is Holly, his wife, her long hair flowing. She has a serene smile and roses in her hair. She looks at her husband with deep affection. "Dear," she says softly, "good job today." Harry looks up at her, caught off guard. A light blush dusts his cheeks as he murmurs her name. One of the children peeks from behind his back. The small, worried face looks up at his parents. Holly moves forward, her eyes only for her husband. She leans down and wraps her arms around him. It is a tender, loving embrace. The children watch their parents, one thinking, "Hug me too." Holly pulls back slightly, a little embarrassed. She apologizes softly, saying she just couldn't resist. Harry's smile widens as he looks at her. He chuckles quietly and returns the hug. He tells her it's okay, that he doesn't mind at all. In this moment, the weight of his work vanishes. All that's left is the warmth of being home. The family gathers together in a perfect portrait. Harry holds one smiling child in his arms. Holly stands right beside him, looking at their other son. Their happy dog sits faithfully at their feet. It's a scene of complete and utter peace. But that earlier warning still echoes in the air. Shortly before Nazelbert's arrival, this beautiful, peaceful moment is fragile. We are reminded of who Nazelbert is. A confident young lord with terrifying power. We see an image of him, holding a fan of glowing leaves. His magic allows him to manipulate all plant life. He can make plants grow, but he can also twist them. He can even create them from absolutely nothing. At the Sutrina estate, new faces have gathered. 4 maids, each with their own skills and pasts. Mocha, the kind herbalist. Marilyn, the former bar worker and young mother. Lolly, the cheerful girl from a big family. And Misa, the talented chef from a restaurant. They've all come to serve Agnes and Nazelbert. Their lives are now tied to the Sutrina family. And now, we see this other family. Harry, Holly, and their 2 sweet sons. Their happiness shines so brightly in the darkness, but that brightness has drawn someone's attention. Their perfect world is unknowingly on the brink, and Nazelbert is the one about to shatter it all.